Ācarya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivijakacarya Ashtotar Shadashrimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivijakacarya Ashtotar Shadashrimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shyamakunda Radha Ganda Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Ganga Mai ki यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Reading from chapter 12, canto 3, text number 33. Saha itthaṁ gṛṇataḥ putrān puraḥ dṛṣṭvā prajāpatīn prajāpati-patiḥ tanvaṁ tatyāja vrīḍitas tadā tāṁ diśaḥ jagṛhuḥ ghorāṁ nīhāraṁ yat vidus tamaḥ sa itthaṁ gṛṇataḥ putrān puro dṛṣṭvā prajāpatīn prajāpati-patis tanvaṁ tatyāja vrīḍitas tadā tāṁ diśo jagṛhur nīhāraṁ yad vidus tamaḥ sa itthaṁ gṛṇataḥ putrān puro dṛṣṭvā prajāpatīn prajāpati-patis tanvam tatyāja vrīḍitas tadā tāṁ diśo jagṛhur ghorāṁ nīhāraṁ yad vidus tamaḥ sa itthaṁ gṛṇataḥ putrān puro dṛṣṭvā prajāpatīn prajāpatis-patis tanvam tatyāja vrīḍitas tadā tāṁ diśo jagṛhur ghorāṁ nīhāraṁ yad vidus tamaḥ. Please repeat.
itthaṁ gṛṇataḥ putrān diśvā prajāpatīn prajāpati-patis tanvam tatyāja vrīḍitas tadā tāṁ diśo jagṛhur ghorāṁ nīhāraṁ yad vidus tamaḥ.
Okay. Mataji's. I didn't speak on the purport so much. I'll just go with the next one. Yeah. Okay, so I think Prabhu did do this one yesterday. Today's 34. Okay, I guess so. I'll chant this one and then I'll just do the translation and report. Okay. Kadāchit dhyayatas. Oh, to this one. Okay. The father of Prajapatis, Brahmā, thus seeing all the Prajapati's sons speak in this way. Okay. Okay, I'll just do this one, yeah. Saha, he, Brahmā, ittham, thus, gṛṇataḥ, speaking, putrān, sons, puraḥ, before, dṛṣṭvā, seeing, prajāpatīn, all the progenitors of the living entities, prajāpati-patis, the father of all of them, Brahmā. What does it say up there? Father of them all. Here it says, father of all of them. Okay. Tanvam, body. Tatyāja, quit. Vrīḍitāḥ, ashamed. Tadā, at that time. Tāṁ, that body. Diśaḥ, or direction. Jagṛhuḥ, accepted. Ghorāṁ, blamable. Nīhāraṁ, fog. Yat, which. Vidus, they know as. Tamaḥ, darkness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The father of all Prajapatis, Brahmā, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed. At once gave up the body he had accepted. Later that body appeared in all directions as a dangerous fog in darkness. Purport. The best way to compensate for one's sinful acts is to give up one's body at once, and Brahmā, the leader of all living entities, showed this by his personal example. Brahmā has a fabulous duration of life, but he was obliged to give up his body due to his grievous sin, even though he had merely contemplated it in his mind without having actually done it. This is a lesson for the living entities, showing how sinful an act is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. Even to think of abominable sex life is sinful, and to compensate for such sinful acts, one has to give up his body. In other words, one's duration of life, blessings, opulence, etc. are decreased by sinful acts, and the most dangerous type of sinful act is unrestricted sex. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, or sinful life is the cause of gross ignorance. The feature of ignorance is darkness or fog. Darkness or fog still covers the whole universe, and the sun is the only counteracting principle. One who takes shelter of the Lord, the perpetual light, has no fear of being annihilated in the darkness of fog or ignorance. Okay, text. No, I didn't prepare for it. I prepared for 34. So I think Mitravan, he read it, but then he was saying he didn't speak on it much. So let's see. So 34. Kadachid dhyayatah srashtur veda asangs chaturmukhat katham srakshyami aham lokan samavetan yatha pura. Translation. Once upon a time when Brahmā was thinking of how to create the worlds, as in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contain all varieties of knowledge, became manifest from his four mouths. Purport. As a fire can consume anything and everything without being contaminated, so by the grace of the Lord, the fire of Brahmā's greatness consumed his desire for the sinful act of sex with his daughter. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and they were first revealed to Brahmā by the mercy of Supreme Personality Godhead, while Brahmā was thinking of recreating the material world. Brahmā is powerful by the dint of his devotional service unto the Lord, and the Lord is always ready to forgive his devotee if by chance he falls down from the noble path of devotional service. The Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this as follows. Sapada moolam bhajatah priyasya tyaktvaanya bhavasya harih pareshah vikarmayat chotpatitam kathan chid dhunoti sarvam hridi sannivishtah. Any person who is engaged 100% in the transcendental loving service of the Lord at his lotus feet is very dear to the personality Godhead Hari, and the Lord, being situated in the heart of the devotee, excuses all kinds of sinful sins committed by chance. It was never expected that a great personality like Lord Brahmā could ever think of sex indulgence with his daughter. The example shown by Brahmā only suggests that the power of material nature is so strong that it can act upon everyone, even Brahmā. Brahmā was saved by the mercy of the Lord with a little punishment, but by grace of the Lord he did not lose his prestige as the great Brahmā. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guru Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svabadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagritam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhutam Savaditam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lita Shri Vishakan Vitam Shehe Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinamada Jagadvite Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusite Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchaka Padravesha Kripa Sindhubhya Vachapatitanam Pavanibhya Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtapatale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtapatale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshtari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmal Pratikākriti Madharam Sarva Vidyanam Haigrim Upasmahe. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavanti Nirsamarana Hoy Vigna Vinachana Naya Javanchita Puran. Okay, so continuing this little section here, creation of Lord Brahma, you could say the fall down of Lord Brahma that is being expressed here, and certain nuances here that are very important in terms of we've been speaking about a little bit. Obviously, sex desires, a big topic that is discussed multiple times throughout these purports, and then particularly that of leadership and qualification of leadership, being given a lot of importance and how Brahma acted, and as I was speaking a few days ago, and as Mitravan Prabhu spoke yesterday, on different aspects of leadership. And here we see very important two verses here of how the Prajapatis prayed for Lord Brahma, and after seeing his sons pray, Lord Brahma kind of came to his senses and realized what he should do and how he should act. And therefore he gave up his body, being ashamed. And then here it's mentioned once upon a time, then when Brahma was thinking of how to create a Lord, then the glories of Lord Brahma are described a little bit, as we see here that that he received the knowledge of the Vedas from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's right after this prayer of the Prajāpatīn, right after that Brahma, when Brahma gives up his body, immediately. Oh, remember that time when Lord Brahma received that knowledge from Krishna? It's a very important point, because okay, he's done this sinful activity and he's given up his body. Immediately glorification comes of Lord Brahma. That it's not an ordinary thing to receive the knowledge of the four Vedas from the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mouth. And we see that Lord Brahma's position is of such character throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whole Bhagavatam begins with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Tene Brahma Hriday Adi Kavai, that it begins with that. And then we see throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, when he's creating, he's praying to the Lord. We see in the 10th canto how he's praying to the Lord in his bewilderment, of course, of Yogamaya, of having that pastime with the Lord. So Lord Brahma is not an ordinary personality, and that's emphasized again and again by Srila Prabhupada throughout these purports, that he is an extraordinary personality. Why? Because he is performing devotional service. And he's done great service to the Lord. So we see that verse coming straight away here. Once upon a time when Lord Brahma was thinking of how to create the world, as in the past millenniums, the four Vedas, which contain all varieties of knowledge, became manifest from his four mouths. And then Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how he was able to directly hear this from Krishna. Krishna revealed that within his heart. And Krishna is the relationship between Lord Brahma and Krishna is quite intimate, actually. I mean, the fact that he's able to take presence in the pastimes of Lord Krishna and be able to pray to him and have knowledge of him. Brahma, he holds a great position. So, by chance is mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada. By chance, or in that verse, Srila Prabhupada translates, if by chance somehow or other one commits a sinful activity in his life, in the course of his devotional service, then he will be excused by the Lord. So that word by chance implies that Lord Brahma went under the proper process of devotional service, that he didn't perform the process of devotional service with an ulterior motive, that he wanted to serve the Lord, that he had a desire to serve the Lord. He didn't try to manipulate his way to try to get his position. That position was granted unto him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he took that position and he went through a lot of austerities in order to actually just perform that service to Krishna. So it wasn't that he was ill-motivated in order to get that position of Lord Brahma, in order to exploit the living entities. He was never thinking that I will create a circumstance in which I will try to enjoy the opposite sex. He never had that thought in his mind. Because if we go a little further back in the 3rd canto, in the 9th chapter, we see the prayers of Lord Brahma Can somebody pull up? Just for some reason it didn't. 3:9:23. So we see in 3:9:23 how Lord Brahma prays. And this is the prayer for creative energy. So here, very wonderful that the Supreme Lord, the personality Godhead, is always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potencies, Brahmā, or the goddess of fortune. I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of the material world. And I pray that I not be materially affected by my works, for thus I may be able to give up the false prestige of being a creator. Just an important line here. Prabhupada says, foolish men want to take credit for all creations made by them, but intelligent persons know very well that not a blade of grass can move without the will of the Lord. Thus all the credit for wonderful creation must go to him. By spiritual consciousness, one can be freed from contamination of material affection and receive the benediction offered by the Lord. So we see Lord Brahma taking caution. And Prabhupada saying that he's very intelligent for doing so. That in this course of creation, that he recognizes that such acts may come about. And so there's another aspect or quality of Lord Brahma, that he recognizes that I may become puffed up in this course and that this may have happened before. So that he prays that I may not be materially affected by my work, so that I may be able to give up this false prestige of becoming the creator or thinking myself the creator or having dominion over my creation, that I can do whatever I like. Lord Brahma understands. So that is his great qualification. You see that his whole mood and attitude towards creation and devotional service is that of humility. And one of the qualities, as Mritharan Prabhu was also speaking, Srila Prabhupada, that gives a qualification for a leader, having humility. So he served. He served without ulterior motive, therefore he was able to get the benediction of hearing these four Vedas. Yasya devi para bhakti yatha devi tato guru tasaite katitayi artha prakashante mahatmana. He's a great Mahatma. Why? Because he has great faith in Krishna. He had great faith in Krishna. And he received all the Vedas literally. He manifested all the four Vedas through his mouth, through his four mouths. So Brahma does a great level of service to the Lord. He's a great devotee, going through all of these austerities, seeing that he feels bad for the living entities, that he has to create such a situation, still he does it. So Lord Brahma's position is quite exalted, that he has direct connection with the Lord. Nonetheless, in his situation, Srila Prabhupada comments at the end of this verse that this is an example shown by Brahma that the power of material nature is so strong that it can act upon everyone, even Lord Brahma. So, Brahma is, although it's in such an exalted position, he's displaying how the living entity, if he is not cautious in his actions, then such fall down can come about. So it's some example, and Srila Prabhupada begins this purport by saying, as a fire can consume anything and everything without being contaminated, so by the grace of the Lord, the fire of Brahma's greatness consumed his desire for the sinful act of sex with his daughter. Or the thought of it, I guess you could say, his desire for the desire for the sinful act of sex with his daughters, as is mentioned. It didn't actually happen, but there was some desire that arose, and Brahma was liable for that just because he's such an extraordinary devotee and such a personality on such a high level that considered almost non-different to doing it. So Lord Brahma's position that because of all this accumulation of sukriti, you could say, this devotional service, that he was saved from his position, that the fire of devotional service consumed even this desire for sinful activity, because it wasn't that he was premeditating it. It wasn't that he was trying to bring about a position by which he could exercise that desire. It happened by chance. That somehow that position came about and just he got, there was a bewilderment and there was some problem. But it's not that he was trying to meditate and bring about a situation in which he could exploit. Therefore, the Lord could forgive easily. The Lord forgives easily his devotees who are sincere. But for those who are not sincere, and they're premeditating such a situation, and they're knowingly doing something wrong, then they may have to suffer through a lot. Not that the Lord gives up on them. The Lord never gives up on his dependents and his devotees, because that is mentioned in this purport of this 11.542, that the causeless mercy of the Lord upon his devotee is his paramaishvarya, or the supreme opulence, his bhakta vatsalya, that he ultimately, everything he does for the love of his devotees. The Lord doesn't exist for any other reason than for the love of his devotees. So, sometimes we see within devotional society that there may be motive, that somebody enters a society with some motive or without motive, and then some motive develops within his heart, that the motives we had in material life to have name, fame, adoration. Mithran Prabhu was mentioning yesterday that otherwise, why would you uptake upon so many austerities within devotional society when you can go outside and have sex and let's do all of these things and get money and do all of these things? Well, you might not be able to do that in material society, because Guru Maharaj mentions in this lecture some time ago in Salem in regards to these boys that were, I think, acting up, that you can't cheat, you can cheat devotees because they're simple-hearted. But outside, everybody's trying to cheat each other. But devotees, they're not trying to cheat each other. So maybe outside you may not be able to exercise that. But somehow or other you may get a position within devotional service in which you might be a little more intelligent, you might have more opulence, you might have this and that. So you may follow the four regular principles, and there's no doubt that there's a level of sincerity there. But at the same time, an overarching thing that may come into our lives is that desire for name and fame, which Shastra says is the root cause of all other things, this desire for fame. We see that Sanatana Goswami, I think it's one of the last verses in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, mentioned that this the root cause of all material desires or anarthas is this desire for fame. So the desire for fame can push you to follow also the four regular principles and study Shastra and do all of these things, because you see that in material society. In order to get to a particular position, they'll be celibate. People will become celibate because they realize the level of intelligence you can get by doing that, level of vigor you can have as a man by doing that. And they won't drink, they won't smoke, especially now. You'll see young men, there's a huge upsurge in young men not smoking, drinking, illicit, performing sexual activity. They won't even take sugar or indulge in such things, because they see it. By restraint, I can attain a position. So the desire for name and fame is, you can't, it is such a, that's what the jiva wants ultimately in his conditioned state, wants to be Krishna. So he's willing to go through anything to be Krishna. So in his material life, maybe he couldn't have exercised that. Maybe he wasn't intelligent enough. Sometimes within devotional society, we see that people are of more simple-hearted nature, so they may not have a big degree or desire to become such a big person in this world. So it's easy to enter within that society. Initially, maybe of some idea of performing devotional service, but because there isn't proper guidance or there isn't proper knowledge, then that quickly takes over. And that becomes more prominent than the desire for pure devotional service. And then he starts to exploit those who are under him. And he starts to take up on a position of a so-called leader. So that person may find it difficult that, okay, I'm performing devotional service, seemingly going, studying, chanting their rounds, all of this. But at forefront, there may be some idea of exploitation or having name and fame in their life. So we see that Lord Brahma's position wasn't particularly like that, wasn't of that position. He genuinely wanted to serve the Lord. And so when such a situation happened in which he fell down from his position, immediately he was raised back to his position. Immediately. Why? Because it was by chance. But we see that, and he also, you see the quality of Lord Brahma, as we've mentioned before. Immediately he accepted. Actually, he didn't accept. They prayed, they told him, hey, how come you're acting like this? In the past, this has never happened. But it seems that he didn't really double think that until they prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Prajāpati is here. They said, let us offer our respectable obeisance unto the Personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. And then immediately Brahma realized, oh, what is my position? What am I doing? He has it's a moment of clarity. I'm meant to be serving the Lord, and these are my dependents, and they're praying to the Lord. What am I doing? I'm in a bad state. He immediately realized, and immediately what did he do? He gave it up. He gave up that body immediately. He didn't try to go to to Marichi and say, hey, look, I did this. No. Immediately accepted where his fault was and gave it up and began, situated right back in devotional service and went on with his service. So you see that. But then we also see those who had some motivation. There's so many excuses. They fell down. But it was like this, because of this, because of that, because of this. I was under this pressure, I was under that pressure, I was doing this, doing that. We don't see that from Brahma particularly. Immediately regretted his position. Oh, okay, I'm in the wrong. Forget it. Let me get back into devotional service. He gave up the body immediately. So we see that that Lord Brahma justified his position, and that power of devotional service, the fire of devotional service, consumed his sinful acts. And it's amazing as you're thinking about that Krishna is Bhaktavatsalya, that he is controlled by devotional service, that bhakti more or less controls the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even when the devotee falls down his position, still it controls the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It can never be taken away, even by Krishna. Whatever devotional service that you've done in your life or we've done in our lives can't be taken away by anyone, not even Krishna himself. Actually, Krishna, he appreciates that to a great extent. So we see that in the case of Ajamil specifically, that even by, he was performing some level of service before, he fell down, and at the end of life, somehow he was able to just perform that again, by chanting, just simply by chanting the name of Narayana. And so he was not liable for punishment. Yamaraj couldn't take him. Now he had to go through his trials and tribulations, still had to do that to that extent, but he did not get punished by Yamaraj. And Yamaraj says, don't touch him, don't even go near them, to the Yamadutas, don't even consider them. Why? Because they have performed devotional service. So that fire of devotional service, it consumes these sinful acts that we perform, but if we are not sincere and serious, as Srila Prabhupada in Guru Maharaj, my spiritual master Bhakti Vikas Maharaj highlights, that this was something Srila Prabhupada said again and again, that sincerity and seriousness. So be sincere and serious. What does it mean to be sincere? That definition is given: to not desire, to not particularly desire position or fame, name or fame. What is that? Is that the definition of humility that's given? To not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So sincerity can, tread along the same lines. Humility, sincerity, they can tread along the same lines here. So we see that by when someone is not sincere and he's in devotional service, that devotional service doesn't go in vain, but he's put through quite a little bit more trials and tribulations in his life. Krishna wants to punish him in the sense that, just like Narada Muni punished the Kuveras, it's not really punishment, it's for the ultimate good. So the father acts for the ultimate good for the child. Similarly, Krishna, he sees that this living entity, although he's performed devotional service, and okay, great, this will help him, still he needs to go through different trials and tribulations in order to come to the platform of purity, to try to serve Krishna purely. So we see that sometimes we are put through hell and high water in order to just perform devotional service properly. When we've committed some mistake, or unknowingly or knowingly, and we've not rectified ourselves, then Krishna puts us through a lot. Just Durvasa Muni is a prime example of that. He became puffed up, and he offended Ambarish Maharaj. I mean, he could have just, if he was just a little bit humble and sincere, he probably could have understood Ambarish Maharaj's situation and just gone forward with it. But now he had to run all over the three worlds, going and figuring out how he should rectify his situation. It's like, it's anxiety. So how much anxiety was he in? Why? Simply because he didn't have the humility. He was too puffed up. I'm a great sage, you must respect me. Okay, he just avoided that. I said, okay, Ambarish, I understand you took permission from the Brahmanas. Okay, thank you for doing such things. Let's sit down and take prasadam. Finished, done. But how much anxiety did he have to go just because of the fact that he was too puffed up? How much do we put ourselves into such a terrible position just because of our own puffed up nature, or the desire to be, the Lord of the universe? So it's an important point, because you see, Durvasa Muni, nobody was there to tell him, hey bro, you're kind of tripping. You're like tripping out, like chill out, it's not a big deal. He's a nice devotee, he hasn't done anything wrong, he didn't commit any sinful activities. Just let it go and be nice. Somebody was there to tell him, would have been good, would have saved him from so much trouble. Luckily Lord Brahmā had his sons come and tell him, hey, what's going on here? And then when he didn't listen, they prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was the greatness of his sons. That they had they had so much love for their father, and love for their senior, that they prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to rectify him. Let the religion may he also protect religion for all goodness. May he also protect religion for all goodness. They prayed to Krishna that please rectify this situation. So Brahmā had that great fortune of good association, that there were people willing to come to him and tell him, hey, this is wrong, and you're doing something wrong. And they did it in a respectable way. And Brahmā was a great leader. Well, in one sense, he didn't accept it straight away, but he realized his mistake and rectified it immediately. So we have that term, that before pride comes a fall. Because there's nobody to catch you. Nobody to catch you because you're too far up. You're too far up. There's no one to support you. You're the man on top. You're the absolute authority. And if they dare point out faults in you, they're wrong. Because when you're a leader, you know the faults of everyone else, right? Because why? Because they generally come to you for advice, and you know everything they've done wrong, and where they are in their devotional service, and all the things they've done wrong. So someone who's puffed up, or one who considers himself perfect, or has no problems with him, what will they do? Generally point that back at the other person and say, see, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you. How can you criticize me? Oh. When they're approaching the person, okay, we're seeing this. No. What you're seeing is wrong perception because you're influenced by material nature. So how can you criticize me? So you should just, because they take that criticism to mean a degradation of their character. And because they don't trust that if I am not fully transparent with my qualities and where I'm at, that people won't respect me. But actually you'll see those who are transparent and very forthcoming with where they're at in their life and where they're at in devotion, people respect that. Okay, this person is honest with himself. Honesty is the best policy. So when there is a show put on, or of being above suspicion, when there is suspicion to be had, then one puts himself into dangerous position as Durvasa Muni. Why? Because nobody's there to save you now. Why? Because nobody can ask you anything, nobody can tell you anything, nobody can say anything. So this is the position one comes to when one doesn't have proper sincerity or humility. And then what happens? We screw our life up. And then we have to be like Durvasa, travel all around the universe, figuring out where to beg for forgiveness. Where? And our life is a mess. Our life becomes a huge mess. Instead of it being nice in devotional service, it becomes a huge mess. And then so much anxieties and difficulties, and there's more opportunities to fall away and fall down from devotional service. So one has to be careful, because one can lose that mercy. Because, even Durvasa approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead and said, I can't do anything for you, my man. I can't do anything for you. I'm sorry. You got to go back to the person you offended, or you committed offense to, and go apologize to him. So our position in devotional service has to be that of taking proper humility, recognizing our character, recognizing where we're at, having good association that will pray for us to the Supreme Lord, even when we're sometimes not able to accept our own faults, and somehow Krishna will give us intelligence. But if we're too far gone, Krishna may not give us that intelligence. Why? Because he may give us a different type of intelligence in which we have to go through the suffering of different ways, by losing the mercy of the spiritual master, or losing association of the spiritual master, or being put in so many difficulties. And we're seeing that. I've seen that, and seeing that in throughout our lives. So in my life, it can just create so many unnecessary disturbances by trying to gain a position that we don't deserve. We don't deserve it. But we're trying, and it just completely destroys our lives, and destroys the lives of others also sometimes. So Prabhupada warns here that the example being shown by Brahmā only suggests the power of mature nature is so strong that it can act upon everyone. We should never think ourselves above it. We should never think ourselves above Maya. It is very strong. Because we see, even in the position of perfection by our great Acharyas, they're still praying. So why should we not? Why should we think we're on some high level? Why should we think we're above the rest of the devotees that are around us? Immediately, as soon as one thinks that, finished, that's all. Because there's the assembly of Vaishnavas, the whole mood of a Vaishnava is to think himself subservient to all of the other Vaishnavas. Whether he's in a position of leadership, whether he's 1 year into the movement, 5 years into the movement, 10 years into the movement, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever many years, the quality of humility in which he himself sees subservient to the rest of the Vaishnava assembly around him should not change. And if that changes in our mind, then immediately, please clean the bathrooms. Please. That really is my own personal go-to, and my own suggestion to others also. That do some service that is not high service, or you consider, why do I have to do that lower thing? Or why do I have to do that? I have more important things. No, make it a point to go and clean the bathrooms. Go and do something that is of something that nobody will recognize, of so-called less importance. Because as soon as we think like this, then we can understand we're finished. We're finished. And Brahmā was saved by the mercy of the Lord with a little punishment. Little punishment, what is that little punishment? He gave up the body. Prabhupada said even one commits sinful activity should give up this body. So, little punishment, because the Lord is ultimately merciful. Krishna is very, very kind upon us, especially those who are performing devotional service, whatever caliber they may be able to perform it. So the Lord is ultimately looking to save us, and the devotees around us are ultimately our well-wishers, hopefully around good association, they are our well-wishers. So if we have a purity of desire, our desire is pure to serve the Lord in whatever capacity, and sometimes we may by chance be overcome by material desire and stray from the path of devotional service. But if we're in good association and we have simplicity of heart, then we can be saved very quickly. But if we don't, and we continue to justify our faults and continue to be offensive towards the other devotees, or try to unknowingly or knowingly take up on the position of that Aishwarya Bhav, then we'll have to learn a very hard way by that association being taken away from us and not being granted back very easily, or by fall down, or by having to go back into the mature pool and suffer through so many things just to realize that it could have been very simple to avoid the whole thing and could have lived a very blissful life. Durvasa Muni could have just sat down with Ambarish Maharaj and had a feast and it would have been a great time. But he had to go through all this nonsense for no reason, just to get on your own mental trip. So it's very simple. Devotional service is very simple. Krishna consciousness is very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. We don't have to artificially try to become a leader. That is given by the assembly of Vaishnavas. It's not given to ourselves, actually. And we don't have to have that title leader. You don't. It's not a title, actually. It's determined by your quality and your characteristics and your record that you hold. So it is not a title that one receives and is a label. It is something. And what is that? What is a true leader? He who has the ability and the desire to benefit others, does not at all try to manipulate a situation or any circumstance to glorify himself. He always sees to the benefit of the other person. He always sees that. He doesn't. His advice is not motivated in any way to benefit himself at all. Therefore, generally the quality of a good leader is that he sees that the person progresses and he sees where to progress him to next. That I don't become the center of this person's life. How to make this person Krishna conscious. So what does it mean? Okay, it means that this person now I should see that he associates with this person nicely, he associates with this person nicely, or he doesn't associate with this person properly, or he shouldn't associate with this person. He gives that guidance. At the same time, he's not attached. He doesn't want a grip hold on this person or this movement or this, that. He sees, okay, when it's needed, he pitches in, and when it's not needed, he doesn't pitch in, he goes on about his service. It's very simple. So we see Lord Brahma's qualities, very, very amazing, very laudable, that even after his situation, he came right back to devotional service, began where he left off, and continued with sincerity and seriousness in his practice. So a lot to learn from this. A lot of warnings, a lot of cautions, a lot of etiquette. So it's very nice. It's very nice to analyze this and go through it, because that, as I've said or discussed, the culture of Krishna consciousness, there's more than just learning, whatever, the verses and the knowledge and exactly how there's this whole underlying culture that needs to be learnt throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we should implement that in our lives and take examples like this and remind ourselves and read again and again and again and again. How? Even if we come up, as there's the other verse, even if somebody is liberated on the platform, almost liberation, by the association of the opposite sex, one can fall down. The warning is so heavy. We're all young, we're all brahmacharis, pretty much everyone here. So we have a long way to go. And so there's a lot of things to learn and understand, but if we're first-class intelligence, if we can bring our intelligence to the first class, as Srila Prabhupada pushes us to, then we can just learn by reading, by hearing. That's all. We don't have to go through we don't have to go through all this suffering. But if we're not able to come up to this first-class intelligence, then it depends where you're at. Second class, third class, fourth class, fifth class. So simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and applying it and developing faith in it, we can come up to the standard of first-class intelligence. And then we can avoid all of this. And then even when by chance in our lives we may have that fall from devotion, have some fall off, we can immediately jump right back on and continue. And have deep faith that, yes, this is perfection. Yes, I fell, but there's many cases that happen, and Krishna guarantees that if I just be serious and sincere in my devotion service, then I can attain perfection. No doubt at all, as Krishna says. None declare it boldly, O Arjuna, that my devotees never perish. So we can have deep faith and strong conviction in the power of devotion service that it will consume whatever sinful activity by chance that may come in our lives. So I'll end my class there. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask, or any discussions. Yes, bro. I'm sure this topic is always a broad topic with so many things.
I guess, from my reading, I felt that Brahma giving up his body was atonement. The punishment is more the embarrassment that he had to face. And I was thinking how humble Brahma is. For him, Supreme Lord decided to put that story in the Bhagavatam for us to read.
Yeah.
After, countless eons. I was just thinking, if my embarrassing fall downs were to get published, and that becomes a study guide for future devotees. Yes, so how difficult it is. And Brahma is still alive also. And he's the Ācarya of our Sampradaya, the head of it. It's not just this, right? There's the other one. You have the Brahma Vibhava Leela.
Yeah,
there's so many. It's
embarrassing.
But this is Ācarya. He's showing by example. We cannot even match the humility of the Guru. You can never match. Even in humility, you can never match spiritual master. It's because he's always Guru. He's heavier. He's always superior in every regard. Actually, he didn't fall down, but still we read like that. And the purport is like that. And
it's heavy.
It's so in that sense, whatever punishment we may get from the Supreme Lord is always going to be insignificant compared to what he's given to Brahma. Because Brahma can handle what we cannot handle. I don't think,
yeah,
it's amazing.
That's a really good point.
So
I didn't think about that.
Occurred to me as you were speaking. Nice class. Thank you, Prabhu. Sadhu, sadhu.
Anything else? Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
We see examples like this, Brahmā, and then there's also...
Can you hold it closer? I can't.
Hare Krishna. There's also Chota Haridas, where he didn't actually commit any sinful activities, right? He just had the thought, and then Lord Chaitanya kind of banished him, and he committed suicide. And we see this standard of give up your body if you so much as think of sinful activity, and then where I'm at, so far from that. I should have given up my body many times, but so it just seems like such, and I understand Kali Yuga, there's no sinful reactions for the thought, and they're held to a higher standard, and Prabhupada said about this Chota Haridas that he couldn't be, Prabhupada said, I can't be as strict, right, because, so I understand these things, but I'm still left wondering, how, it just seems so far, and I understand, okay, power devotional service, like you're saying, but maybe you could just speak on that, how far we are from that standard, and it seems like to gain the association of the Lord and to become, a pure devotee has none of those thoughts, right? So
We're constantly
Seems very
giving
far.
up this body. That's one thought about that I had immediately, was that by chanting Hare Krishna and doing this, we're giving up misconceptions, trying. So that is our position. I mean, that's the point of be sincere and serious. That verse comes that at the thought of sex, even by our acharyas, I mean, we see it, even at the thought of sex, I spit at the thought. And it's not that, taking example of acharyas again, like Vishnu Prabhu was saying, we see that even the sex thought comes, but I give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up. You don't try to relish it in your mind. That's when you're in trouble. So you're trying to give these thoughts up. And so Krishna appreciates that, he sees that. And so that whole act of giving up bad habits, we have so many crazy thoughts. Like Vishnu was saying, well, this is just kind of, Brahma's thoughts are here, and we're seeing it, and we're like, oh, that's pretty, it's like kind of disgusting, But if we were to put our thoughts on paper and say, okay, let's write the history of our thoughts, I don't, it's quite crazy. So we're giving it up. That's the point. We should be spit at the thought of sex life, this sex, performing illicit sex and such, or performing acts outside of devotional service. So we should be repelled by it. If we're not repelled by it and we're attracted towards it, then you're in trouble. So that act of trying to give that up in itself, we can consider to be, a level of, you could say, atonement or repentance. So that has to be there in our lives. Otherwise, we won't make advancement. We'll be stagnant. So you have to constantly, when those thoughts come up and all of these, you have to engage in devotional service, and at the same time, you have to consciously try to give it up and see how to give it up. So that's the process we're undertaking. So we are trying to do a similar thing in that sense. So we're not trying to relish what is in our mind and what those thoughts that come up. We're trying to give them up. So that's what
Just a quick follow-up. So we also say how aversion is the opposite of attraction. So then, I've heard like in the Brahmacharya book, it's like keep a cool head, these kinds of things. So then just in terms of practicality, like we were talking about, how does that go about, like this rejection of that thought? Because if you're like, no, that's just
you chant Hare
too
Krishna.
far, yeah. Right.
What is the rejection of that thought? Well, let me think of Krishna. It's not that stop thinking about it, stop thinking about it. It's like, no. What's the process that's been given to me? It's chant Hare Krishna, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and go and engage in service. That's it. Right. So one who doesn't understand that, then what did you read? What do you do? Oh, I can't think about sex. Don't think about a big fat elephant. Don't think about a big fat. Obviously, it's gonna, it's gonna happen. So don't think about women. Don't think about women. Don't think about women. Oh yeah, I remember that girl. Oh, okay. Don't think about her. Don't think about her. Don't think about the time we went to the movies. Don't think about the time we went to the beach. It's not gonna work, is it? But better to think about how. Krishna is playing with the cowherd boys. Lord Chaitanya is performing these pastimes. When things come up about certain, we may think of the Bhagavatam. Okay, I'm thinking about this woman. Oh, what's happened in the Bhagavatam with this? So immediately our mind is redirected towards, Puranjana is a great person to think about. About how the Bhagavatam relates in terms of that and different sinful activities we performed, a jamil. So therefore this literature is there in order to fill our mind with all of these connections to Krishna consciousness. If you don't read, then what will you connect it to? Back to your nonsense. But if you read, when those nonsense things come up, the Bhagavatam has all of these pastimes in there in order to connect us to Krishna. So we'll think Ajamil, but Ajamil just said Narayan and he was liberated, so I should do the same thing. Puranjana, he was put into so much difficulty because of this. And, Narada Muni relates all this. So all of this comes out. And so you start to see through your eyes, through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, then you see purification. Then it's not contaminating, it's liberating. So you learn how to act. So that's what devotional service is. learning how to apply what we are reading. Why are we reading? Because we have anarthas in our hearts, and otherwise they'll keep just going back to that. But if we can fill our minds with just the story, these pastimes of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and so many other Shastra to constantly refer to, as Guru Maharaj says, I'm always thinking philosophically. What does that mean? Everything is relating to Bhagavatam. How to do that? Read, hear, listen, remember, contemplate upon what you're listening to. So this is the process. This is the process of hearing. This is the process of reading, chanting. We're not just doing it as a religious activity for the sake of doing it. These processes are meant to take place. So we have to see that they're taking place, and we have to endeavor to have that happen when these negative and sinful thoughts come, connected to the Bhagavatam. It's there. Everything is there. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
There's a question from Bhakti Vishal. He asks, how did Ambarish Maharaj feel about the way Durvasa Muni treated him? And how is he able to forgive him?
He didn't feel any. When Durvasa comes back, he said, what are you talking about? What offense? Didn't feel it. Vaishnava doesn't feel like this. Yeah, I deserve it. Ambarish felt when that fiery demon who was that came to kill him. Yeah, that came. He said, okay, I deserve it. He didn't retaliate. He didn't try to counter it. Nothing. He said, okay. And we see the same with Parikshit. Yeah, all right. Let me accept my fate. Is this what it is? It's the supreme. Again, the devotee goes back to dependence upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't think of anything else in his mind. Yeah, okay, Supreme Will, Lord's will. Let me take it. It doesn't curse. And one important point, Brahmā, he prayed to the Lord before, saying, please don't let me fall down from my position, and he fell down. But he never went, well, Lord, why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you? I prayed to you for protection. I did everything right. Why didn't you protect me? No, Lord Brahmā, okay, my fault. So another point, just in that regard, because we see earlier he prayed to the Lord like that, but then he has this position, so why didn't the Lord protect me? So, yeah, Vaishnava means he just takes it as the Supreme Lord's will. This is what it is what it is. Krishna has arranged this for me. But he always takes that humble position. You have?
We look at it is that the Lord protected him by giving him the intelligence to understand that he made a mistake. So there is protection.
Yeah. You had something, Jitagirish Prabhu?
Yeah. So, by performing devotional service over time, you come up in the society. Just by sticking it out, you become a senior devotee, and then naturally you may even come to some leadership position. And actually,
maybe not all people.
Yeah, not all people, but
generally, there's devotees who've been around for years. They may not get a leadership position. There is only very few that get a leadership position.
Yeah.
So
but still, there's respect that comes with that.
Sure. Yeah. Of course. Over time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, even for someone joining the Krishna consciousness movement or coming to devotional service, giving up everything to stick it out, they may have the faith that, if I do this and I just have faith in this process, eventually I'll get these material things. I'll get this fame, I'll get this position, I'll get, maybe a nice devotee wife. So one may think this when joining, but after practicing devotional service for years, and eventually you'll get to a point where this will be addressed in your mind, where I joined for these material things, but I'm supposed to give these things up. But we also see sometimes people don't give that up, and then they fall down, they do horrible things. But yeah, and I guess it's just a reflection. You could say something on this too, but I guess eventually, if one has these underlying material motives, eventually they come to the surface, and if one's sincere, they address like, why am I here?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like catch-22 sort of situation. It's like it's hard to determine. Like we were discussing yesterday, how do you determine if somebody's actually rectified? It's up to that individual ultimately to rectify himself. How is it that you can promise that that person won't take up on his own old habits and then do the same thing? You can't. So when we're situated in devotion properly around proper association, we're hopeful that that rectification comes about. I mean, I can't deny that I think there is always material desire to try to, even amongst devotional society, have name and fame. It's just a part of my conditioning and trying to give it up, but it's there. So, but Krishna, we pray to Krishna, please put me in a situation so that I can realize this nonsense. I know it's useless. I don't want it. I don't like it. So please give me a realization of it. Raj says like that sometimes. If you dare pray so that you get put into a difficult situation to Krishna, please put me under such situation so that I can give such nonsense ideas up. Then He may put you through so many trials and tribulations in our lives. So yeah, ultimately it's up to the individual sincerity. There isn't like, a very clear defined line what is what, who becomes purified, who doesn't become purified. We don't know.
Eventually one has to change their motives.
Yeah.
Because coming from especially Western society and then coming into devotional service, devotional society.
Not just Western society,
it's completely unhappy. People are completely
society
miserable.
In general, Western or Indian or Eastern, whatever it may be, you're conditioned by that.
Yeah.
So.
But to make that change, you have we may even attract people in this way. Like you can live a happy life here, because people are coming from an unhappiness, and it's just such a simple base level thing. You need to adjust something so that you're happy, and so that may be your desire coming into devotional service, that you want to be happy. But eventually, you have to change that motivation. I want to make Krishna happy. I want to serve Krishna.
Yeah.
And so there's like a certain point where you have to give up this I want to be happy. When you get to that level.
Yeah. Is there anything from the mothers? Any questions? Yes, there's a question back there.
When we have these, Hare Krishna?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. When we have these anartas coming up that might lead to a fall down, or really heavy thoughts to gratify the senses, are those coming from unmanifested seeds of karma, and then they're manifesting in our experience in our devotional life because our bhakti creeper isn't strong and there's a weak point where those weeds are growing? Is that what's happening? Or is it just a newfound misuse of our free will?
It's a really good question. That probably requires a little more. There's Ujjvala Nilam, Ujjvala Nilam. No, Ujjvala Nilam, sorry. What am I talking? I'm mistaken. Vishwanath Thakur's book. Madhurya Kandimini. That probably has, sorry, it's tripping. That probably has a good amount in there. You could say in that there's quite a bit actually. Madhurya Kandimini, that defines a lot of this sort of nuances that are there with it. There's both to some extent, because devotional service gives a different level of name and fame. So you may give it up, the material aspects of it. I mean, it's still material, but then when you come into devotional service, then it takes a whole new shape. It's more difficult to give up when it arises in devotional service. So it's easy to give it up when you're, materialist and you gotta give up this, and this. But then when you come into devotional service and then you get that, and then it's hard to give it up. So there's obviously that in the conditioned soul, as you could say, almost as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, almost has become It's almost like it's an inherent nature of the living entity because it's conditioned for so long. So that root cause to try to be Krishna is there, and so that may manifest in different ways, whether it's by karmic, that the seeds that have been there before, but then it may manifest in a different way within devotional service. Devotional service may sometimes, being in a society like that may even give us that leverage to do that. So it's a little more complicated. Yeah, these subject matters is definitely, they get more complicated because it really starts to deal with an individual and their own desires and their own positions and their platform of devotional service. So, but yeah, it could be both. That book has a lot more in there.
Thank you. I also have another question. In regards to sincerity, would you say that the indicator of sincerity is that the action or the thought is not premeditated?
Are you saying in terms of fall down? Like, because, I mean...
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and specify it.
Yeah, it's not premeditated. It's not he didn't plan. It's not that today, I'm going to go out to Sankirtan, and I'm going to meet, whatever. I'm going to, instead of going to Sankirtan, I plan to go to the club and I'll dress very nicely. I'll have a bunch of money in my pocket, It's like, okay, it's like, what are you planning to do? And so it's like premeditated to say. But if you're generally going out on Sankirtan, for example, we would work these music festivals, and we're there with the desire to serve Lord Chaitanya, and that's our desire. But amongst that situation, sometimes the devotee may get bewildered, and somehow, there's some woman or there's something that comes up from the past, and he has a difficulty or fall down in the instant. So he didn't premeditate it, but somehow in his service, there was a difficulty. So that may be excused by the Lord and by the devotees also. But whereas somebody plans something out, then that's insincere, and then you have to go through a lot more trials and tribulations in order to rectify yourself.
I have a follow-up also on that. So when you're not premeditatingly trying to fall down or make a fence or whatever it is, when does it come to the point where you have to be honest with your circumstance, if you are trying to practice devotional life, where you actually need to create a dovetail so you continue your process of devotional practice?
Yeah, when does it come a point? Again, that is an individual basis. You have to see that if that fall down happened and you're finding it difficult to not have that happen, just like devotees in general, I mean, it's a thing in our society. Devotees struggling with sex desire, so they may have a fall down by either watching pornography online or masturbating or whatever it may be. And that devotee may be, in many cases, maybe in the realm sort of life. So if that happens somehow or other, whatever, there was some accidental thing that happened, and he gives that up and never does it again, okay. All right, there was accidental, it goes on, didn't happen again, it was somehow by chance it happened, still he feels bad, still there's the same remorse. But if it's happening again and again, now there's got to be a change, now there's got to be a dovetailing, okay, now married life. You have to exercise that sex desire in a dharmic way. So that's how one has to go about it. See if there's an accidental fall down, but then it's happening again, that's not accidental, is it? There may be more deeper cause. So one has to see. If it doesn't happen again, then you can understand it to be by chance. But if it's happening again, if Brahmā was to run after another girl straight away, it's like, oh, okay. There's a little more than just a chance here. And so there's some, there's something more going on. So then one has to see how to act dharmically to rectify that desire. Okay, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.